it is to sit down with you and hear your story. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and share with us. Chris Botha, the founder and co-managing director of Stay Today.
Thank you, Kirsty. Thank you for having me.
It's great to have a chat with you. So let's start at the beginning. Why is it that you decided to become a chartered accountant?
I think it's from an early, well, let's say early high school. I've always been very confused about what I wanted to do after after school. I was always very confused, and I went to, what do you call it, aandagtoets. I went to evaluate and get some guidance from people that have better experience to find out actually what I wanted to do one day. And it turned out that a chartered accountant sort of gives you a passport to the world. It gives you an opportunity to work in different sectors. What I really enjoyed about the chartered accountant is if you were, for instance, a lawyer, then you'll probably be involved in legal matters for quite a long time, whereas an engineer, you might be building buildings, or a constructor, whereas a chartered accountant, you have all the business sense, economics, accounting and all of that to help you really enter a broad spectrum of different businesses. So that really appealed to me, and in hindsight it really turned out to be that way. I did have the ability to start my own business.
Beautiful. Yeah. And that's something we've been hearing so much and chatting to the various chartered accountants in Namibia, that it is such a wonderful foundation, a platform to open up so many doors to the rest of the world to you. Was there a specific person that inspired you to say, I'm going to go all the way to chartered accountant?
I think the idea of being able to travel with the chartered accountant profession is definitely something that appealed to me. I made a decision very early on that, especially during my university days, that I did not want to stay in Namibia. I think the exposure I got in Stellenbosch made me realize that, you know, there's so much more to life, and I want to meet new people and experience new cultures and you know, different businesses. So when I heard that, you know, when you're a chartered accountant, you're not bound to Namibia or even Africa, you could literally work almost anywhere in the world. That appealed to me a lot. So I think, can't name somebody specifically that motivated me, but the idea that it was a passport to the world definitely appealed to me.
Beautiful. And what was the process like while you were studying to become a chartered accountant?
My first 3 years were relatively easy. Your fourth year is really tough. Every second Saturday you write 5-hour exams, so there's not much time for relaxation. It's a really tough year. I mean, I basically scraped through in the end. So yeah, it was tough. It's one of those things in hindsight, would I do it again? Sure, I don't know.
And how did you stay motivated then in those tough times while other people were perhaps socializing and you had to study for a 5-hour exam that was coming up this Saturday?
Well, I was quite fortunate I moved out of Res. I really enjoyed my time at Res, but I moved out and stayed in a private residence with about 7 of my friends, and 5 of them were also in the same boat. So I think it's very important to surround yourself with people that are sharing the same struggle. That definitely helps a lot. There were 1 or 2 guys that did not, that played more rugby than study. So the distractions were there, but I had people to support me, and I think that's really important.
Very key.
Yeah.
What would you say is the single most important value in this profession?
I think integrity. I think without integrity, it doesn't. The CA profession would basically crumble. I think there's a certain status or value attached to a CA, and a lot of that comes from integrity. I think people underestimate how important the role is of CAs in the business world. I mean, we take it for granted. You see a stock price, you see a company's results, and you just assume that's probably accurate. But there are people that train a long time to make sure that it's accurate, and staying independent and working with integrity is key to upholding the status of the profession, but also to continually produce results, financial but also qualitative results from companies that people can trust and invest their money in. And if you think about a company, there's so many stakeholders, and indirectly they're all relying on auditors to make sure that what they see is what they get, essentially.
Absolutely. So it's extremely important to have that integrity, and also for us to know the value of what is being produced by this industry and how many other industries are supported through it.
No, very true, exactly.
Very beautiful.
Yeah.
And in terms of the process then, so when you qualified to become a chartered accountant, you said you went to go travel all over the world and you worked as a chartered accountant?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, so I did. I after university, I studied in Stellenbosch. I came back to Windhoek and worked at KPMG, that changed to SGA later, and then joined KPMG in 2008 in Luxembourg. It was a crazy experience. I arrived there on the Sunday morning, and my friends picked me up and took me to IKEA and said, pick your furniture, we already got a flat for you. And Monday I was working. So the Friday I was here in Africa, 35 degrees, and on Monday I was in minus 20 in Luxembourg. So it was quite a massive shift, very quick shift, and I had to learn quickly. But initially the plan was to go for 1 year, ended up staying for 2, really liked it, maybe 3. Long story short, I stayed for 7 years. I even applied for my Luxembourg citizenship. Yeah, it's been a wonderful experience. Just meeting all the different cultures, being exposed to so many different businesses. Here in Namibia, you have a really specific type of client, whereas in Luxembourg, what they call the back offices of Europe, you focus more on financial industries and holding companies, and you're exposed to just a completely different set of businesses, but also the way people work and accounting standards. So yeah, it was a wonderful experience for me, and I can highly recommend it.
Beautiful. And now you've taken all of that from the learning experience right through to the practical application, and brought all of that wisdom back to Namibia and opened up a business.
Yes, I think I've always been, like, I have nothing bad to say about the chartered accountant profession. It's definitely prepared me, as I said earlier, I was never sure what I wanted to do, and I think it's a wonderful profession to follow if you're not sure what you do, because I feel you could almost call it life business skills that is taught for a chartered accountant. I mean, tax is something that everybody should know something about. I mean, it will add value to you no matter what you do. And the same with an accounting. Any business needs accounting and management accounts and economics. So all of the subjects that you are taught is very valuable regardless of what business you enter yourself in. Not even specifically necessarily if you go into your own business, but regardless of what the business you enter, I think it's very valuable. And I can definitely say it has been the case for me. It has helped me so much. I mean, my friend Nadia Miller, who started the business with me, is an engineer. And he's really struggled with a lot of the things that businesses require from you. The tax, the legal side of things, setting up a business plan. All of these are skills that I was taught, some of it at university and some while actually practicing as an auditor in Luxembourg. And in hindsight, I felt very prepared for starting my own business, which I think is an invaluable sort of gift or tool that a chartered accountant profession gives you.
And we've heard from a lot of the different chartered accountants in Namibia that it's almost like you've become disciplined into business, where you understand business, you understand hard work, and you're prepared to be able to give what needs to be given.
Yeah, I think it's almost because I believe that we are entering a phase where professions sort of become irrelevant. It's more what can you actually do, but people will only appoint you when you've got a track record. Now the nice thing about a CA, it's almost like somebody that's run 100 kilometers in the Fish River Canyon. You don't know much about this person, but you're pretty sure that they'll be able to run 25 kilometers because they did 100, and it tells a lot about their work ethic and their dedication. And so the chartered accountant is similar. It sort of ticks the box that this person has had a very, he's had to work really hard, because it's not just about, you can't just be gifted and be quite clever to pass the CA exam. You actually really need to put in the hours, because it's just an enormous amount of work. So that ticks the box. And then, as linking up with my point earlier, regardless of the profession, you're almost sure that this person should be able to fit in somewhere in your business and will deliver a high quality of work.
Absolutely beautiful. And is it still something that assists you in your business, being a chartered accountant? You've explained how it helped you set up the business, but do you still rely on it today?
Yeah, definitely. I think I always say that I love what I do now. I don't think auditing was specifically personally for me. I think there's a lot of people that enjoy auditing. Personally for me, it was, I'm a bit more of a creative type, and I wanted to, I always make the joke that, in auditing, if you're creative, or in my profession that I'm currently working as a tech startup, I get rewarded for creativity, whereas in auditing you could go to jail for being creative. So there was a very set rules of that you need to follow in audit, but that gives you so much structure into going into a business, which is so valuable because sometimes starting your own business, you run it like a cowboy show. You feel, oh, but now I'm on my own, I can do what I want, and suddenly you realize that the structure that you were taught was there for a reason, and it's we recently got acquired by a local Namibian company, and they reintroduced that structure to us, and it made me think of the days where, as a CA or as an auditor, that was what we were taught, and seeing it in practice, it actually makes sense. It's not just, they don't just teach that to you for the sake of learning you something. It actually makes business sense.
And it helps you at the end of the day.
Definitely.
What would you say are the highs of this profession?
Highs of this profession, definitely the fact that you'd be able to travel. I mean, thinking about my time abroad, I went to Madrid, I went to Chicago, even had a few trips to South Africa. I've literally traveled the world just because I am a chartered accountant. I was fortunate enough to work for one of the big four, Deloitte. So Deloitte gave me the opportunity to explore different cultures, not only in Europe, but all over the world. And for that, I'll always be privileged. I mean, it's just a wonderful experience to visit these other offices and meet the different cultures and see how they operate. And yeah, so that's definitely one of the highlights. I think specifically in an auditing firm, something I really enjoyed a lot is that it's a very young culture because there's a constant influx of new junior auditors coming in. So I really enjoyed that. The medium age at most auditing firms is quite low. So there's always a fresh energy coming in, which is not always the case at companies. And I think it's very important to keep updated and you know, stay ahead of the curve. So that's really something I enjoyed while being an auditor.
Beautiful. Chris, let's talk about motivation for a moment. How do you stay motivated? What would your advice be to perhaps somebody starting out to study as well as somebody in this profession? How do we keep motivated?
I think you need to work backwards. I think you need to realize that because before you made the decision to study this, you need to very clearly understand why you wanted to study it. I think it will be very difficult if you jump into the profession or rather jump into studying for a CA and find your motivation along the way. That's not going to happen. You need to set very clear goals for you in the start, and when times are tough, remind yourself of where you're going. I think that helped a lot. It's really tough at times, and as I said earlier, I think to get support, there's no shame in not trying to do this alone. I think it's important to have colleagues or mentors throughout your journey to help and motivate you.
Absolutely, and that's some great advice for life.
Yes, definitely.
And talking advice, what would you say was the best piece of advice that you ever received, business advice?
Well, this might sound a little bit arrogant, but maybe I should probably credit somebody for this, but I've always wanted to start my own business, and I think so I'm happy that I listened to my own advice of just going for it. I can't take all the credit. My business partner definitely took the biggest leap of faith. But there's a lot of joy in enjoying your work. I can't say it enough. I think people always say if you sleep well and you enjoy your work, that's 16 hours of your day, that's pretty much covered. Then figure out the rest later. So it's very important that people don't get stuck in their works. And I think that's also changed. I think in the past people worked in one job for 40 years and that's just normal and it's the way things are. And people are starting to question what they do on a daily basis, which is very important. I think it's very important that you enjoy your job. Ideally be passionate about it. That just means you'll be better at it. So very, very happy that I've taken the leap. It comes with its own challenges. You don't work less, you don't stress less, but you enjoy what you're doing, and it's output driven. Nobody is waiting for you to arrive at 8 o'clock. You know you need to be there at 8, and you work later, but it's for you and for the baby that you created, and that's very rewarding.
So with all of this experience that you've gained, the learning and ultimately starting your own business and seeing it grow to a successful Namibian business, would you advise anybody else to consider a career as a chartered accountant, to start off their career path as a chartered accountant?
Definitely. Like I said, I find it very difficult, and it's something I realized in our business, how difficult it actually is to start your own business. I mean, if you go through it, you think, oh, well, I probably need to register a company, I can get somebody to help with the tax, and then I need a marketing plan, and what is the product going to look like, and who's my supplier? And then before you know, you're like, wow, there's actually quite a lot to starting even a t-shirt company. So chartered accountant prepares you for that. There is no business that you cannot enter once you've got the chartered accountant profession behind your name. It is invaluable to me. I keep on every quarter or so, I just reflect back and I'm like, sure, I'm so happy I have this qualification behind me, because it gave me the tools to start my own business. So definitely, if you're unsure about what to do, you can't go wrong with going for a chartered accountant.
Absolutely beautiful. And one more question I have for you, and that is, what would you say you have learned about life through this profession?
The profession has definitely taught me hard work. Maybe that was more specifically Luxembourg that taught me there. The work ethic of people there is, I think my first year, it was very common to work 6 days a week, 12 to 14 hours. And when everyone around you is doing it, it becomes the norm. So I definitely have a work ethic. When I came back here and people were waiting and looking at their watches and leaving at 5, it was a culture shock for me almost. So I've definitely learned that you become more organized. Most auditing professions, if you're working as an auditor, there's timesheets, which everyone's not that fond of, but it teaches you to be mindful about how you spend your time. There's a difference between working hard and working smart. And I think sometimes at the end of the day, you have to fill in your timesheet for 8 hours and you think, wow, I worked really hard, but how much did I actually deliver? That's definitely something that it's taught me.
Absolutely beautiful. And today you've gone on to start a business, start new businesses with underneath that business, employ multiple Namibians. What a success story and what a journey. Thank you for sharing it with us.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Kirsty.